When Vladimir Putin announced his invasion of Ukraine, he justified it by offering a long revisionist history about Russia's relationship with Ukraine. Today, when Putin kicked off his brief press conference with Donald Trump, brief by 12 minutes, he began with another history lesson, this time about Russia's relationship with the United States.
We're close neighbors, and it's a fact. It's also important that Alaska has to do with our common heritage, common history between Russia and the U.S., and many positive events have to do with that territory. Still, there is tremendous cultural heritage back from the Russian America. For example, Orthodox churches and a lot of more than 700 geographical names of Russian origin. We'll always remember other historical examples when our countries defeated common enemies together in the spirit of battle camaraderie and allyship.
So why did the Russian leader spend so much of this press conference about Ukraine talking about the history between Russia and the United States? He loves a history lesson. He had maps, too, in the meeting, apparently. But joining me now is Julia Ioffe, Washington correspondent for Puck News, who has covered this for a long time, wrote a really fascinating piece recently for Puck, which we'll also talk about. But let me start by just asking you, you have covered Putin for a long time. What did you make of the meeting? What did you make of the historical digression, the inclusion of maps today in the meeting? What did you make of all of it? I think I'm having trouble. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think I'm old and I mute myself on Zooms. Okay.
We've all been there.
Well, I think it was par for the course for Putin. He loves a good history lesson. As you know, with Obama, he would start with these history lessons that you all called the airing of grievances. With Tucker Carlson, he gave him a long history lesson that went back to the 10th, 11th century. And today we got a history lesson about peace, which I think is interesting because for the last 10 years, Putin and Russian propaganda have avoided mentioning Lend-Lease like the plague, because Lend-Lease actually helped the Soviet Union quite a bit to not collapse in the face of the Nazi invasion in 1941-42. And acknowledging that, saying that, World War II is sacrosanct. It's part of the ruling cult of Vladimir Putin. And saying that America helped us win that was a no-go zone for the last 10 years. The narrative was very much, we won World War II on our own. We did all the killing and dying. The Americans are cowards. They didn't get in until 1944 to kind of put the cherry on the sundae, but we did all the hard work. So it was interesting that he started with that. And, before he came over to the U.S. and hopped the international date line, he went and laid a wreath at the memorial for fighter pilots who flew those missions. I think it was just, theatrics to butter up Trump. But what I made of it was Vladimir Putin showed up for the win, to pocket the win. He didn't need a deal, but he knew damn well that Donald Trump was incredibly thirsty for one, because he's, just collecting countries. Today he was talking about Cambodia and Rwanda and the Congo, Azerbaijan and Armenia. He's just seeing this like charms on a bracelet. And I think Putin knows that it was very clear in watching the Russian propaganda in the lead up to this summit and talking to sources in Moscow. Everybody was saying that, we know Donald Trump really wants a deal. We don't really need one. If anything, a ceasefire or a peace deal right now would hold us back and would be detrimental for Russia. We're winning.
Thirsty for a deal. We're going to put that on a T-shirt somewhere and give you credit for it, because that seems to be Trump's motto. I think, to your point, the question I've been asking people is sort of like, what leverage in this moment does Trump really have? Because to your point, you watch more Russian propaganda than I do, but we've been paying attention to it a bit. They've made a lot of military progress. This was a particularly successful military week or so in Russia. I may have read that actually in your piece. In Ukraine for Russia. And it's like, why would they make a deal at this point? What leverage do you think the U.S. really has if they really want to seek something like a ceasefire or an actual end to this war?
Well, they could do the things that Keith Kellogg, who was originally supposed to be Trump's advisor on this, but is now just dealing with the Ukraine part, if at all. What he was saying, if you remember last summer, heading into the election, he was saying that if Vladimir Putin doesn't cooperate and doesn't give Donald Trump the deal, then Donald Trump will arm Ukraine to the hilt, will flood Ukraine with weapons and slam Russia with sanctions so that he knows they're serious. But Trump has avoided doing that, and he took the bait. He also obviously needed the distraction from the Epstein files, but the deadline that he had set for Vladimir Putin expired, and on that same day, Putin said, no, wait, let's do a summit, right? And Donald Trump, like a fool, invited him, somebody who has an ICC warrant out for his arrest, invited him onto American soil. It was interesting that Putin made sure to mention that this was Trump's idea to have him in Alaska, had American uniformed troops literally on their knees rolling out the red carpet in front of the Russian presidential jet. I mean, Putin couldn't have gotten better images than if he had paid for them himself and had his people stage them. This was incredible. And, it's a huge diplomatic win for him. And what did Donald Trump get for it in return? Bupkis. Nothing. I mean, what a deal maker.
Bupkis, although an invitation perhaps to Moscow and maybe a continued delay tactics that Trump may continue to be a fool over. Julia Ioffe, thank you for writing. Thank you for all your expertise. And thank you for being with us here tonight. I really appreciate it.